Sam,
How good's this?
dude, so sick, so sick.
Yeah.
Hold on, let
How
me
we
make
look?
sure everything is all right here.
Yeah, easy, easy.
Yeah, how's it look on your side?
I think, yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me.
All right. Let me turn off these fans.
Yeah, no dramas. You got a good little setup there, eh?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, you're here in Wilmington or Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina with me. And
Oh, you're kidding. There you go.
yeah. So I was on a little trip up to Virginia Beach, took about 6 hours
Yeah.
south, and and hold on. We're going to get into all that. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Should we start the program?
Let's go.
All right, sweet. This is Speaking from Water with Sam Hensen Thompson. And we are just so enthralled to be with you. This is a program that is dedicated with a mission to bring the legends of water to the public, to inspire them, to inspire the youth as to all the things that we get from the water. And Sam, it's a honor to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Honestly, like I'm so happy you got me on here. I'm very excited to chat a bit of shop, see what happens.
Yeah, dude. So just to rewind the clock about a week, that was the
Mm,
first time you popped onto my radar, and I was watching the open surf ski at the national championships for the United States Life Saving Association in Virginia
yeah.
Beach and Virginia, and you were just like a football field away from the second place, the pack, the third place, and I was just blown away. And first I watched the start, and you were just like bam right off the bat. Your form, everything was just a marvel. And I said, man, that guy is something from somewhere. And you coasted in, and I walked up to you and I introduced myself, and sure enough, you were from the great God's country of Australia, and I was so stoked to meet you. So let me first start off by excuse me, I'm plugging deleting some things here that are popping in. So let me first start off by asking you, how was that win? Was that like just walk in the park for you? How did you feel going into that race?
So it was actually a bit of a crazy situation because I'd done about a week of traveling. Um, like only a few days before that, I hadn't slept for about 3, 4 days. I just couldn't get into the groove. Obviously, coming from Australia to the US, I think it's a 16-hour time difference it's on the west side, and then it's a 12-hour time difference on the east side. So just getting there and being able to race was awesome. When I got on the line, I was feeling pretty shocking, to be honest. I didn't have a lot of energy. If it was the day before, I think I would have raced a lot better. But on the day, was feeling pretty shit. Got on the line, ended up doing the race, and just kind of when I'm racing, I don't really think about anything else. I don't really like the lead or how far behind. Doesn't really care. I don't really care about where everyone else is. It's just kind of get into the race, do what I plan to do, and for some reason, just I kind of scope out what's going to happen in the quarters and the semis. You can kind of scope out what's going to happen. So I kind of looked at everyone else's starts, and I went, I'm going to get them on the start here. In the final, I'm going to just get in the boat and get out as quickly as possible, and hopefully hold them off. And I kind of, the night before, put that plan in my head, and then on the day, I put that plan into action, and it worked out perfectly.
So you did the semis, and you kind of got a feel for the competition and where you stacked up. And how did you feel?
That's right. So in the semis, for example, I could kind of gauge or calculate the whole thing about racing is kind of calculating your competitors. Even though when you actually race, I kind of put everything aside. So if someone falls off next to me, I'm going to make sure that that doesn't affect me at all, sort of thing. I feel like there's a lot of people in surf sports that can blame the guy next to you or blame the guy behind you or in front of you, but that's what surf racing is all about. It's all about coming from behind or extending that lead. Um, So in the semis, my whole thing was just calculating about what's going to happen in the next race, in the final. So even watching the other race, the other semi-final, and seeing who can get in their boat quickly, who turns the cans properly, who can run the runners, that just, you know, that just puts it all into a massive kind of map for me, so I know what to do in the final. And obviously, you kind of look at what everyone else does, and then you play your advantages, or you go, okay, well, I need to try figure this out so I can beat this guy.
And so in that final race, you hop in your ski, everything goes according to plan. And
Yeah.
is your game plan just, I'm going to max out my intensity level for this first, like, how long?
So
What's the game plan?
yeah, so it's a funny situation because I've never paddled a Boss ski before, and they are completely different to what I paddle back here at home. Another thing is, so your paddle is, it's a pretty personal thing. Like, they've got a certain degrees that you use, and also a certain length. So I'm using a paddle that I've never used before. It's a different degrees to what I usually paddle. It's a lot shorter. So I would love to jump in a boat and just be able to max out and go. But unfortunately, because I'm not used to the boat, I'm not used to the paddle, I gotta almost hold it back a little bit. So in that final, I jumped in the boat. It was actually quite a slow jump. And then getting up to speed probably took a little bit longer than I would have liked, just because I'm not used to the equipment. But yeah, basically jumped in the boat and went as hard as I could. And I knew Brian Murphy to my left. He's a good paddler. He's a really good paddler. So I thought, if I can just break him on the start, I knew I had a better start than him and a bit more power. So I knew if I could break him, he's probably not going to get me on the way back in. And, you know, executed the plan and it worked out perfectly.
So much in surf ski and is that those little running waves, from what I understand and in my own
That's
minor experience. And that day there was a little swell in the water. Did any of that take into account on your way back in?
for sure. So the way most of us look at it is that's your kind of I wouldn't say your rest, but if you can get around the course first and you're on those runners or on those waves first, it's very hard for someone behind to push over a wave. You know, it's not often you can paddle over a wave. So if you get to that last can, or you guys call it a buoy, first, there's the best chance that you're going to win, especially if you got a little bit of a lead, because then if you fall off a run or fall off a wave, you've still got the chance that they're not going to get over one or two waves to catch up to you. So I think on the way in, you know, it doesn't really matter if your shoulders are blown out and the forearms are blown out. It's just, you just got to be able to run those runs and, you know, run those waves and turn anything into a wave. That's the main goal, especially at the back end of a ski race.
What is your ideal scenario on conditions when you are racing? Do you like a really rough ocean, or do you like it just milked out glass? Like, what suits your personal style?
Oh, so I go back to when I was young. So mum and dad knew nothing about the ocean. They're both from Europe, and we moved to Australia, and they just threw me in the ocean, and I was in,
Well,
you
let me
know,
pause there. Where did they move to?
so we moved to Melbourne. So we were in Melbourne for the first, I think it was first 13 years of my life. We were in Melbourne for the first 13 years. And then I moved to the Sunshine Coast for this back half. And then I've been in WA for a couple of years now as well. So I've kind of moved around pretty much since I was 17. I've been going in and out of the Sunshine Coast and going around Australia. But yeah, so there you go.
And when was your first glimpse of this surf life saving culture? And let me for those of you who don't understand surf life saving culture, it was really born in Australia, and the Americans have kind of co-opted a lot of the cultures, such as the caps, and even down to the races itself. And Sam, so my direct question to you here is, like, that culture is so deep in Australian culture, surf life saving culture. When did you get this coming from abroad?
Yeah, so I think it's just kind of thrown at you. And going back to your previous question with what my conditions are or what conditions I like. I just love big surf. And I think to be an Australian or to live in Australia on the coast, everyone lives on the coast. There's not many people who live inland. So everyone lives on the coast. You got to understand the ocean. And when it's big, it gets pretty hairy out here. So I think mum and dad going, we want our son to be good in the ocean. We want him to, be able to survive at the worst, pull someone out of a rip or save someone. So that's kind of where the whole surf life saving culture comes from. Another thing is it's on the TVs here. We've got the Kellogg's Nutrigrain Ironman series and stuff like that. So there is actually people you can kind of look up to. I guess there's not a lot of that overseas, where here it's really pronounced. Like there's guys, Grant Kenny, Clint Robinson, all these names you can say to pretty much anyone in Australia and they'll know exactly who they are. Trevor Hendy as well. He's a legend.
Right. And so tell me, where's the beach you were introduced to, and at what age were you really starting to, like, I guess, start competing and doing the competition thing?
Yeah, so my first ever surf life saving club was called Black Rock, and that's in the Bay of Melbourne. So it's completely flat. You might get a bit of a wind wave every now and then, but I'm talking less than a foot. And mum and dad threw me in when I was about 5 years old. So I've been doing this sport since about 5 years old. The last few years have been on and off due to uni and traveling and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, 5 years old is kind of when I started. And then I think when you're about 7 or 8 years old, you can start competing. And that's when you got your states and all that. And at that age, you're not really competing in the surf, especially in Melbourne. Places like Queensland and New South Wales, when you're 5 years old, you're out in 5-6 foot surf on your nipper board. It's a completely different life. So I kind of got into it late, moving to the Sunshine Coast as a 13 or 14-year-old. I was actually quite late to the party, especially in terms of my surf skills. So that kind of gave me a bit more motivation to, let's get up to these guys and see how we go.
And when you say surf skills, you're talking about the boards particularly, or all the ski and the swimming? What do you mean?
Well, just everything. Even just being out there floating.
Because you're coming from the flat waters of the bay.
Exactly. I'm coming from nothing, no experience in the surf at all. I mean, we would make trips to the surf coast every now and then, but it just that's once a week, probably not even once a fortnight. So it's nothing compared to finishing school and going down to the surf club and being out in the ocean for 3-4 hours. So I know as soon as I moved to the Sunshine Coast, it was, you'd go to school, you'd finish at 2:00, you'd be down at the beach, you'd surf for a couple of hours, then you'd train, and then you'd surf after training again. So it's incomparable, absolutely incomparable.
Can you tell us a little story about the first time on the Sunshine Coast where you were introduced to intense juice, the big waves that you now like a lot? What was that experience?
Yeah, so I think it must have been 2 weeks in. We got I was at Maroochydore Surf Club. I think I was just trying out. I was just trying out to see what surf club was right for me. And we were doing a thing called a paddleback. It's basically when a bus and a trailer, you put all your boards and your craft on a trailer, and we'll bus about 20 kilometers, so I think about 15 miles down the road. And what we'll do is we'll use the wind to paddle back to the surf club with the wind. So you kind of do this big triangle. So you get to the beach where you paddle from, you paddle out about 2 kilometers, so about 1.5 miles. You paddle out, and then you run the swell and the wind all the way back to the surf club, and it takes about an hour and a half sometimes. Anyway, so we got down, and it was 6 to 8 foot, and I'm not used to the surf, and I'm on my massive board. It's 10'6". It's got, I don't even know how many liters, about 1 million liters in them. I'm paddling out, and I just could not get out. Anyway, I ended up on the beach, looked like a washed up rag doll. And the coach is like, mate, you've thrown yourself in the deep end. You know, we can tell your skills aren't there, but I know you can paddle. So all you have to do is attack this surf. So anyway, I spent the next 10 minutes just attacking out to sea, getting through these waves, and boom, I popped out the other side and I got out the back and I did my board downwinder all the way back. And that kind of just set a spark for me. I went, you know, like what's my capabilities? I thought I was done. I was on the beach. I was ready to jump back in the bus, and I was the only one. Like there were younger kids who were making it out. And I went, you know, I'm done here. And ended up just going completely flipping my mindset from I can't to I can. And after that, it was as soon as the swell was maxing out, my goal was, even if it wasn't for training, it was just to get out on a board, on a ski, go for a swim, you know, just pound myself around and see what happens.
Now, looking back on that situation, what was it? Was it your lack of time knowing about swell changes in when to go out, like how to time yourself? What particularly have you learned now that you say, oh, I got this, your confidence is through the roof?
Well, it's all about learning the conditions and knowing and kind of preempting what's going to happen. I guess with surf racing, it's, do I sit back and pop this? I don't know what you guys call it. You kind of sit back and pop the wave, or do I roll it? I think you guys call it turtle. Yeah, it's a lot of different things, but also it's positioning on the craft, how to use the craft properly. You know, there's hundreds of different ways to do things, and that's why when it comes to surf racing, not always the best guy wins, because there's so many variables. And I think for me, it was learning the conditions was the major one, because I kind of knew where to sit on my board and where to sit in the ski and how to you know, kind of control it. I think it's really just about being out there, and you know, sometimes you can tell what wave's going to double up, or you can go, this is the first set wave, there's probably three bigger ones coming after it. So knowing when to sit back and also knowing when to go is probably the biggest thing.
Incredible.
Mm.
Where do you see your career going? Do you want to get on the Nutri-Grain series out there? Like, what are kind of your goals with your sport at the moment?
Yeah, so this has kind of been a big revamp for me. So I've been traveling pretty much for the last 3 years, and I haven't been doing much of the sport. I actually was in Perth, and I was a head coach of City of Perth Surf Club for a year, and then I kind of moved away from that because it wasn't, you know, I love the sport, but it wasn't the right time to come back for me. So I've actually moved out to a place called Exmouth, which is in the desert, right out in the northwest of Australia. And I've kind of, from going out and, you know, leaving everything, it's kind of made me realize that I want to come back into it. So I got invited to come on this, you know, this team full of Australians over to California. And when the opportunity came to race at the Nationals, I thought, you know, how about I just, you know, jump in and kind of see what happens. And lo and behold, kind of got a love of the sport again. So my plan is now to go back to the Sunshine Coast and train up for Aussies and give it, you know, another red hot crack. I think I've got, my shoulders are pretty cooked from when I was younger from swimming. So I'd love to get back into irons, but I think at the moment my major goal is to get maybe a ski race title, or you know, get back on the board even. I haven't been a board paddler for probably 5-6 years, but I think the ski is probably my best shot. And one thing at a time, let's give the ski a shot.
Yeah, so to take it to the present moment, I was looking on your Instagram feed. I think you posted it yesterday. You did a sick 360 on the surf rescue board, and then you gave a little shout out there to what, Trent Nixon, is that his name?
Yeah, Tex Dixon.
Nixon, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I in preparation for nationals, I was watching all the footage that had just come out of your Aussies like 6 months ago, and that board
Mm.
race he did was amazing. So,
Yeah.
is that where you're seeing yourself as far as the competition?
Yeah, so it came across as a bit of a joke because
No, no,
I've
I
yeah,
understand. I got it. I
yeah,
understand
yeah,
Australian for sure. Yeah,
100%, 100%.
yeah.
So Tex and I have been racing together or been alongside. Like I've known him since he was, 5 years old, sort of thing. We both came from Melbourne and we both moved to Queensland, and we both had the exact same dream. So we're exactly on the same level. And like he's done really well and obviously won the board title. So it was kind of just just a bit of fun. And I think I can get back there if I find a board big enough. I think like I'm about 110 kilo, which is, it's 220 pounds, probably more. I think it's a bit more than 220 pounds.
And how tall
So
are you?
yeah,
You're very tall, 6'4"?
yeah, I'm about 6'5". I'm
6'5".
6'5". So yeah. So I think, I paddled that JM at nationals in the USA, and that's a 110 kilo board, and that was the best board I've kind of ever paddled, just because of how much it floats me. I use a 90 kilo back at home, so I think if I can get a good enough board and I can get some good training in on the Sunshine Coast, I'll be up there this year. But hopefully next year, we'll give it a bit more of a crack.
While we're on the subject of the rescue board, I'd like to ask you a few questions about your style of racing in that domain. When you approach a surf rescue race, do you what are kind of the strategies from the entry to when you're on your knees to when you choose to go on the prone? What's kind of the game plan?
Yeah, so there's not too much that I can just openly blur, because that's kind of my differentiator, because I'm so tactical with what I do.
So you top pros keep this tight secrets. These are top secrets.
I mean, there's some things that I just don't tell people, because I know that's my differentiator.
Very good.
But
Keep it
there's some
tight.
simple things.
There's no one listening here. Just
but yeah, there's some simple things like going out through the surf. It's a lot quicker on your knees, because if you can imagine, if you're prone and a wave hits you on the chest, you've got your whole chest and that wave pushing you back. Whereas if you're on your knees, that wave kind of can rush through, goes to the left and the right of your knees and between your knees even. So little things like that make a massive difference. Also, being on your knees, you're in a much quicker position to pop over the wave. And also there's you got a bit more force. So if you need a roll, you've got your whole body weight with you. Whereas if you're prone, you just kind of got to flop off the side. It's little things like that on the way out where it actually does make a difference, like a massive difference, because you watch in an Aussie's board race, not even when it's flat, people have faster and slower starts. And really everyone should be the same on the start. Like the power doesn't really matter. It's just get the rating up and go. Even just your positioning on the board on a start, being able to, I guess, transfer that speed off the beach onto the board. Some people like to get straight on the guts and kind of stomach bash, and I think that works in some places. But then also getting up on the knees and being able to get over your stroke and power down is a huge thing. Now, in I think like a general rule, or well, you can actually like kind of skew it a little bit, and some people make places, but going around the cans is everyone treats it as a bit of a rest, which is just kind of what it is. I mean, because you go so hard off the start, you get in your position, and then there's not a lot of opportunity to make or lose position on the cans. I think if you mess up, there is, but maybe if you're in a pack or you're out in front, there's not a lot of room to move up or move back or whatever. So people treat it as a rest. So I think we've come to the age now where people are actually trying to do attacks at the cans or around the cans, which is kind of exciting. But for me, it's usually just a bit of a rest, because I go so hard off the start and I try to be at that front end. And I know that my back end is where I kind of got the surf skills to come back past people. So if I'm sitting in fifth in a board race, this is obviously quite a while ago now, I haven't done a lot of board racing, but I kind of backed myself that I had the surf skills to come back up a few places, if not try to win the race. And then on the way in, it's just about just draining the battery. You've got your limit and you've just got to push. I think there was there was a year where I was as fit as I was, or the fittest I've ever been. And pretty well every board race I did, every final of the board race I did, I'd run up the beach seeing stars because I just had nothing left, nothing left. So I think it's all about knowing when to use your energy and where the power needs to be and all little things. Like there's hundreds of other things that I could talk about, but that's just kind of the simple stuff.
How about when you round the apex can? When do you start looking back for that wave that might be there? And does that slow you down at all when you look?
So it completely depends where you are. There's a place called Kira on the Gold Coast in Australia. So basically, a few years ago, we had Aussies there, and at the apex can, it was breaking. The waves were breaking at the apex can. So obviously, you're looking for waves as soon as you turn that apex can, and you
Were
want to
you
try.
at that? Did you compete in that event?
I wasn't board paddling at that stage. No, I mean, I was a board. Yeah, I was a ski paddler.
Were you skiing at that event? Because I think I saw some footage of just complete carnage of the skis during that event, and it just looked like this is a ski event that will really wipe out your chances of winning or anyone's game, which
That's
makes it
it.
so
Yeah,
beautiful, really.
yeah. I mean, the way that beach, like I've got a love for that beach. North Kira is probably the most insane beach to race at. A lot of people don't like it because there's massive sweeps, there's a shore break, and there's a massive back bank. So I think
Is this right at
in
the
one of my
jetty? Is North Kia right at the jetty where the eagle is over the sculpture?
yeah, so that's Kira. So you got Kira, and then it's just a little bit north. It's probably about a kilometer north of there. So
So kind of
three
south of
quarters
Gray
of a
Mountain.
mile.
Gray
Yeah.
Mountain.
So
Yeah.
so it goes. You got Snapper Rocks at the top. Then you got kind of your Greenmount, then your Rainbow Bay, then your Kira, and then you got North Kira. So it's kind of heading north towards Surfers Paradise sort of thing. But the funny thing about that whole place and racing is, I think in one of the ski races, the gun goes and we're all paddling out, and there's a little bit of a shore break, and it was calm. It was flat. It was completely flat, and you've got about 200-meter paddle until you're kind of out the back where the swell hits, right? And by the time we got there, there's just 6 foot, 7 foot monsters freight training down this bank, and we're all looking at it. A few of us kind of sat back. A few of the guys sat back and went, we're just going to wait this one out. But I thought, how about we just pin it? And I had one of my really good mates next to me. I said, Jai, I'm going to go here. And he goes, all right. So I went, he went, we both pinned it. My ski went sky high. I'm pretty sure he got belted, but he eventually got out. So it's just little things like that. Everyone who waited ended up, getting through to the next round. But because I made that risk and I thought, let's have a bit of fun with this, didn't quite make it to the next round, and I had to swim my ski in and paddles and all sorts. So for me, it's almost just a bit of fun at the moment. But I'd love to get back to serious racing for sure.
Amazing. What is the like? Give me a day in the life of your current. Are you what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm not really doing much in terms of surf sports. That's why in about late October I'm planning on going back to the Sunshine Coast and giving it a red hot crack till April. But just in general life now, it's pretty much wake up. I'll go to work, so I do a bit of construction stuff here in Exmouth. There's not a lot of other work around here. Like, there's a lot of tourism stuff, but I found that I can't really train or I can't really surf or dive outside that. So I'll go and do some work, put up a few frames or whatever, and then Usually I go to the beach, whether it's surfing, diving, whatever. I've got a jet ski. My mate's got boats and all sorts of stuff. So yesterday I worked till about 1 o'clock, and then we went diving for 4 hours. And I can barely hear you now because both my ears are absolutely cooked from all the pressure and the equalization. But I just love it. Like this whole life I live is completely just off the grid, kind of a bit rogue, not normal, I'd say.
And this is Western. Are you north of Perth?
Yeah, so I'm about halfway. I'm halfway up Australia. If you look at it on a map, Western Australia goes the whole length, and I'm about halfway up. So it's warm. It's warm here, and it's winter. Perth is freezing cold. It's 14 hours drive from Perth, so it's a long way. It's a long way north of Perth.
So this isn't the season for life-saving sport as it is here in America, because it's winter where you are, it's summer where we are. So you kind of are going to be beginning your season in October, you say. And when you go into that world, is that something that is going to be shockingly different? Are you going to just completely up your training level? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, so it's going to be completely opposite to what I'm doing now. At the moment, I am pretty much doing no training. I kind of just rely on the base fitness that I've got from years ago, and also just the diving and surfing fitness as well. And then I do a little bit of running, not much, and then also just the physical labor that I do with work and stuff. It's just kind of gets me over the line, especially racing over in the US. I did as much training as I could, but I only had about a few months to prepare. So I don't even have a surf ski where I live now. So I haven't paddled a surf ski for probably 3-4 months. That nationals race was kind of the first time I've been on a ski in a while, and especially being on a different ski was completely different. Had no feel left or anything like that. When I move back to the Sunshine Coast, it's going to be balls to the wall kind of thing. I've set my plan as I want to get back into racing and I want to do well at these Aussies. I know I've got the base, I've got the skills. I think that's kind of my differentiator. The skills is definitely where I kind of win or lose. My fitness is always pretty monotone. Like there's a lot of guys that are a lot fitter than me and can, run a ski and run a board a lot quicker than me, but the skills is kind of where I get them. So I'm just going to get back to the Sunshine Coast, get as fit as I can, and hopefully get my fitness to as close as those top guys. And then the skills will let the rest happen how it happens.
Well, Sam, that completely blows me away right now, because like intuitively, I would think the guy who just destroys the surf ski at nationals has been just pounding training, and he is he's got to be at the top of his physical condition, which really speaks volumes to just your pure natural ability and the amount of history and time that you've been on the surf ski in particular. So how much more does your body change, would you say, when you start going balls to the wall? Like, are we talking about like a minute percent difference, or do you see a drastic percent difference in your performance?
So I actually had one of my one coach that kind of changed my whole perspective on racing was a guy called Clint Robinson. And he told me about this thing called the apprenticeship. And it's so many hours you do in a kayak or in a surf ski or on a board where you actually become kind of the next level. Like anyone can paddle a board fast. If you're a swimmer, you can jump on a board and you can just stomach bash the thing and paddle it just as fast as kind of anyone else. But it's not until you kind of do that apprenticeship where there's this next level where it's like another 15-20%, and people just kind of look at you and go, oh my God, like this guy's a freak. So I think it's saying like 4,000 hours, or it's probably more. It's probably 10,000 hours on a certain amount of craft where you just become this absolute animal on it. So that's why we'll go back to Tex Dixon. He's been wanting to win that board title for years, for probably 10 years, sort of thing. And I bet he paddled every single day, or every single day he could, to get that apprenticeship sort of thing. Yeah, what was the question you were going back to before?
Yeah, how is your level of fitness changing when you start going balls to the wall, as they say, in your fitness? And
So
and
from
and
here,
and let me pause this real quick.
mm,
I have like 10 more minutes, maybe 15 more minutes. I want to speak with you, but the Zoom is gonna stop. Can I send you a new link and we just link up on that?
yeah, let's
All
do
right,
it.
I'm gonna do it right now. Give me 2 minutes.
Okay,
Here we go.
all right, too easy. We're back.
We're back. Excellent. Okay,
Perfect. Yeah.
super important. This is like my favorite part of what's going on with our whole conversation. So, I probably have about 4 hours on a ski. I can ride it without tipping. Okay, it gets me
Mm,
through the old man age group event of the Ironman. Okay, now
yeah.
really good. You say you got to put in 110,000 hours, and it does. And this probably goes to anything in life, anything you want to do, and particularly in surf lifesaving, you got to do it on the ski, you got to do it on the board, and you got to do it in the pool swimming to be the best of the best. And just to drive this point home, this is what I personally love most about the surf lifesaving sport is the amount of time one has to put themselves in the water on a craft or using their own body to just not even, I wouldn't say do battle with the ocean, to be in sync with the ocean and to live in the ocean comfortably under any conditions. So I would like to go kind of more in that direction with you. How does that work and love live inside yourself when you put all that time on something in the water? And what does that do for your mental state when you come out of that situation?
I mean, you got to love it. There's no point competing and racing if you don't like it. You're never gonna get to where you want to get to if you're not loving it. Like you hear about all these guys who, um, who are really good surfers and they just love surfing, but they don't compete, and that's why there's a thing called free surfing. And obviously, there's nothing like that for surf life saving. But I think you see those top guys and when they've got the opportunity, so around work, around school, around university, they are in the ocean or their life is driven towards that goal of maybe winning an Ironman or a ski paddle or, a board or whatever. Like they dedicate their life to it, which I think is really cool. So pretty well, all those guys in the Nutri-Grain, they would swim every morning, maybe have Sunday as a rest. They would have midday sessions at the gym, and then they would have their craft sessions in the afternoon. So you're looking at, you're looking at 3 sessions a day, 6 days a week, which is absolutely crazy. And even when I was in school and I was younger, I think I was doing 15, 16 sessions a week, not including the sport that I played at school as well. So, you dedicate your life to it. And I loved it. There wasn't one point where I didn't love it. It just kind of fizzled out when COVID happened, everything slowed up. And that was kind of where I went, maybe I have to look at my life a little bit more and go, let's just kind of find something that I enjoy doing while there's no racing and training. And then I found surfing and I found diving and I found kind of like packing up the car and driving anywhere in Australia and just kind of figuring myself out. And then that's kind of where I got my love for coaching. So I kind of figured that, let's give coaching a go. And by doing that, I kind of figured out, oh, look, I'm still a little bit too young to coach. I mean, I'm not too young to coach, but it's not the right time of my life. And I want to get back into racing and training. So this winter, I kind of stuck it out in Exmouth where it's warm. I cannot deal with the cold. I just can't deal with the cold. So I've stuck it out in Exmouth and I've kind of made the plan to go back to the Sunshine Coast and, possibly get back into, 12, 13 sessions a week and just give myself the best shot at the Australian titles in April.
What is it about the nature of competition that you love so much and is really ingrained so much in Australian culture? I've been fortunate enough to visit Australia a few times, and there's just a different attitude of and it's a friendly competition across all activities. Whether it's the old men bowling down the road, like in your culture, competition is part of it. Can you kind of speak a little bit about that to our people?
Yeah. So everyone has a mutual respect for each other. I think it comes from maybe your school sport or when you're young, right? So most people in Australia start sport when they're really young. It's just one of those places where at school you're given every opportunity to find kind of what sport you like, or, whether it's swimming or hockey or anything, like, they kind of throw you in, and yeah, most schools you're kind of forced to do it as well. So you don't really have an option. And that's where I really learned, all about camaraderie and respecting the other teammates, and all that sort of stuff. Also, when you watch sport on TV, there's no, sometimes there's bits of aggression, but most of the time people hug it out or shake hands after. It happens, especially we've got this thing called AFL, which is it's Australian Football League, which is completely different to the NFL. And that's rough. Like it's just tackling the whole time. It's a messy game, but you get to the end of the game and everyone shakes hands. No one holds a grudge. Some guys get yocked in the face and break their jaw, and like a week later, they're best mates with the guy who did it. So it's just one of those things that you kind of just grown up into it. And especially with surf racing, you got to get used to losing, because you can be so much faster than everyone else and you could be 100 meters ahead of everyone else, but there's a luck of the draw and a wave comes from behind and 20 people come past you. People throw their boards, snap their paddles, do all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, that's exactly, you sign up for that, and I think that whole thing's got a lot better. There's obviously room for improvement everywhere, but I think compared to back in the day, like you see guys punching their skis and getting really aggressive towards each other, that doesn't really happen as often anymore. And I think it's just that respect of the sport, just like, the sport's still growing, and I think it's pretty cool.
So you do a lot of coaching with younger kids. How do you speak about the subject of losing to them when it is so competitive and everyone does want to win? When the losing happens, which happens more often than the winning, what do you say to the youth?
So we had some times when there was a bit of swell down in Perth, and we'd go training, and people would we call it a bit of a dummy spit. It's basically where you kind of just go hands up and you just go like, what is going on, blah, 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 or you blame it on a wave or blame it on someone. If any of that happens, I kind of just sit them down and I just say, look, can you control that wave out there? And they go, no. And you go, can you control what that person does next to you? And they go, no. And it's like, why are you worried about it? I think I was at the USA Nationals, and something happened, and a competitor goes, oh, like this guy did that, and the gun went off, and we ran into a wave, and you have all these things that happen, but you cannot control them. Like there's some things you can, like I guess the guy with the gun could do this or that, or start a bit later or watch the ocean a bit more, but at the end of the day, the gun goes off. It's a race. It doesn't really matter. Like you can't tell what happens out the back. You can't what happens if one of the, I don't know, like a boat goes in front of you. Like you can't control any of that. So I think teaching them at a young age that not to worry about the things you can't control, that's a massive difference. By the end of I did a whole season there at City of Perth Surf Club. By the end of the season, the attitudes changed of almost every kid. They went into Aussies, they tried the hardest, and if things didn't work out, they go, oh well, next year. That's kind of the attitude you got to have in surf racing.
Incredible. Final question before we wrap this up. Large macro question here. What is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life, I think, just to live every day. Basically, the way I look at it is, if I died, I would want to die happy. I want to die knowing that to this age, I've done every single thing I could, which at the moment is pretty spot on, because I wake up and, it's 5 a.m. on a Sunday and I'm ready to go. Like I'm going diving all day today. If I died, I want everyone to go, he just did everything. He didn't sit on the couch. He didn't sit in bed. He didn't lay around. He didn't wait for anything or wait for anyone. He went and chased it. So I think chasing it is just the way. That's the way of life.
Sam Hensen Thompson, thank you for joining us, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we can meet again. I'm sure we will. And
For sure.
next year is a Galveston, Texas. Will you be there?
I'll be there. I've fallen in love with the USA, so I'll definitely be back there.
Epic. Hey, how can we get you to race for Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina? Ocean
Oh,
Rescue.
give me that green, give
Like,
me that green
I
card and
got a
I'll be
black
there.
cap over there for you. Like, what is it going to take?
Yeah, no, it's tough. As an Aussie, it's really tough to get in the US, especially if you want to work or race or whatever. It's tough. So there are ways to get past, and one of those ways is you got to have a skill.
Yeah. So what I mean, before we break, a little extra here.
Hmm.
How did you race for Half Moon Bay, who I believe you were racing for? What's the
Yeah.
nature of that cross ship? Do you?
So I was a part of Half Moon for a lot of my kind of racing life. Um, and when I heard that they were going to go do a USA tour, I went, I'll join. I'm going to join back up, so I can do this sort of thing. Not saying I'm going to be with them for Aussies or for the rest of the season. It's literally just so I can go and do this race, and kind of fell in love with the club and the people again. So who knows what happens? But so that's why I was part of Half Moon, and I came across, and because I'm a member there now, it's I'll race for them and do that kind of stuff. I'm still a member there for the rest of the season, so that's how it all works. But in terms of being an eligible racer at nationals, you have to be a lifeguard. I'm not sure how many days you've got to do or how many hours, but I think you just have to be signed on to a lifeguard service. So because I wasn't signed on to a lifeguard service, pretty much anything I win or anytime I go through to the next round, they wouldn't even record the name or they wouldn't even take it down. There's no medals. You're an exhibition athlete, which is great because I think that it kind of gives me the drive to get over there and work and try be part of what your system is. So I think that kind of just sparked a little bit of a flame in my body as well.
Well, on behalf of Wrightsville Beach Ocean Rescue, I would like to invite you to our beach. We have I'd like to say the best beach in the world. I mean, it is quite beautiful,
Oh,
and
cool.
I believe you would love this town. So please look us up, consider us. The season starts in April. I mean, that's the dead of your winter, and
Yeah.
April. No, no, really, it's the beginning of June. So it's a 3 month really short period, and take a look at us.
Mate, that'd be cool. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
dude.
make sure you get us up. I'm keen to get over the USA. I don't know, I don't really care where it is, but I would love to lifeguard over there and see what it's all about and definitely race another nationals.
And did you say you're in uni at the moment?
So I'm done with uni. Now I'm just living. Now I'm just working.
What did
Obviously
you
where I live.
study? I don't mean to keep us going, but that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
No, so I studied sports and exercise science, and I kind of got to the point where I didn't quite get the degree, but I got the job that I wanted. So I went, if I can, I've got all the skills and all the base and everything, and I've learned enough that I can go do this job. So I applied for the job, got the job as a coach, and that's kind of like, I've got that's literally my apprenticeship. I went and did my year coaching, and I knew it's something I want to come back to. So I've kind of changed my mind. I do want to go back to uni, but I'm thinking more of a business thing. So I really want to, have something that I can kind of work anywhere. So if I can work on a laptop and be anywhere in the world, that's kind of my goal from now because I want to train again. I want to surf. I want to live my life. But I think going and traveling to work and doing a 9 to 5 isn't for me. So I think if I can do something, whether it's marketing or running a website or going and learning how to do that would be a dream. So I've kind of flipped from the whole coaching and sports side to doing something like that. But that's just when you're young, things change and
Well,
your
yeah. I
mind
mean,
changes.
the business mind here seems to think the two cross pollinate greatly. You could have
Mm,
an exercise science business online for sure, and
for
you
sure.
would kill it. But
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, Sam, again, I'm very thankful for you taking the time. I hope you have an amazing dive experience coming up in the next few minutes. And how
Thank
are the
you.
conditions today? Are you, what are you looking at?
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, there's not a lot of wind, and obviously where we go dive, we try not to go when there's a bit of swell. So it's looking pretty bloody good. So I'm pretty excited.
Are you going for anything in particular, or just for fitness? Is
So
fish or fitness?
well, yeah, no, the way I look at it is, like you can go to the shop and you can go buy your food, and you know how long has that been in the freezer, or where has that come from? Whereas if I go off here, jump on the jet ski, go and plug a few fish, I know exactly where it's come from. It's free, I guess. I mean, you pay for fuel, but it's free food. So I just go and do that. You know, that's what I love. I don't really care what I get. Obviously, there's some species that you know are pretty like people kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, like you've done well there. So every time I go out, I go out thinking, let's just go get one of these or one of these, and you know, obviously bigger the better, more food you got. So yesterday I went out and filled the freezer, which I'm pretty happy about. So go out today and see if I can overflow the freezer.
Well, Sam, enjoy your Sunday, and thank you again
Awesome.
for joining us here on Speaking from Water. And it's been an absolute honor.
So easy, Sean. Thank you so much. It was awesome. I love talking to you.
Hey, bro, and hopefully we can do it again.
Sounds good, mate. I'll chat to you
Yeah, and
soon.
hey, I'm serious about Wrightsville Beach. I'm going to send you some information. We have a really great university here, UNC Wilmington, and they,
Oh, cool.
yeah, they're sick. So, with
Yeah,
all
if
that said,
we can figure something out, we'll make something work.
our dog,
All right,
have a great afternoon, morning,
catch you later. Morning.
later,
Catch ya.
peace.